Have you ever noticed how people react when you finally put yourself first? The moment you stop saying yes to everything, the moment you set a boundary, you uncover something shocking: people's true colors. Too many of us are trapped in the cycle of people-pleasing. We agree to things we don't want to do, sacrifice our time, and put others first, hoping it will earn us love, approval, or acceptance. But what happens when we finally say no? Suddenly, the people who once praised us turn cold. The ones who benefited from our silence become angry. Here's the truth. When you set boundaries, you don't lose real friends, you lose the ones who are only there to take advantage of you. And that's the best thing that could ever happen. Today, you'll learn why saying no is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself. You'll see who truly values you, who was just using you, and most importantly, how to reclaim your time, energy, and self-worth. If you're ready to break free from guilt, fear, and toxic expectations, let's get started. People-pleasing is a silent trap. It starts small. You say yes to one favor, one request, one extra responsibility. You think you're being helpful, kind, a good person. And then before you know it, it becomes a habit. You say yes automatically, even when you don't want to, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you your peace. Why do we do this? Because we're taught to. From a young age, we're told to be agreeable, to keep the peace, to make others happy. We're conditioned to believe that saying no is rude, selfish, unkind. We learn to measure our worth by how much we do for others. The more we give, the more valuable we must be. But here's the problem. Every yes you give away too easily chips away at your time, your energy, and your self-respect. You sacrifice your own needs for the sake of keeping others comfortable. And the worst part? It never feels like enough. No matter how much you do, there will always be someone who wants more. If saying yes made everyone happy, why do you still feel drained? Why do you feel exhausted, unappreciated, and taken for granted? Because it was never about appreciation. It was about access. And the moment you start saying no, you'll realize just how conditional people's affection really is. Saying no changes everything. It shifts the balance. It makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to see you as a person with limits instead of a resource they can use. And for the first time, you'll see who truly respects you. No is not rejection. It's self-respect. It's the line that separates people who genuinely care about you from those who only cared about what you could do for them. The first time you say no, you'll notice something. Some people will test you. They'll push back. They'll try to make you feel guilty. They'll act hurt. And then there are the ones who will get angry. Not because you did something wrong, but because they lost control over you. The wrong people will resent you for standing up for yourself. The right people will respect you even more. If someone only values you when you're useful to them, they don't truly value you. They value what they can get from you. And that is a hard truth, but it's a necessary one. Because once you understand this, you stop taking their reactions personally. Their anger is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their entitlement. This is where things get real. You're going to face backlash. Guilt tripping is one of the most common ways people react when you set a boundary. After everything I've done for you, that's their way of saying, I thought my kindness bought your obedience. Then there's the silent treatment. The people who disappear the moment you stop being available to them. These are the ones who only stayed in your life because they could take from you without giving anything back. And then there's the anger. You've changed. That's what they'll say. But what they really mean is, I can't use you anymore. And that makes them uncomfortable. This is the moment where most people second-guess themselves. Maybe I was too harsh, maybe I should have just said yes one more time, but don't fall for it. Staying firm is the only way to break the cycle. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to your time, your energy, or your kindness. Now comes the part where you rebuild. You learn to create a life that respects your boundaries. And that starts with surrounding yourself with the right people, people who don't make you feel guilty for having limits, people who don't pressure you to be someone you're not. Saying no gets easier with practice. The key is to stop over-explaining. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't need a long list of reasons why you can't do something. No is a complete sentence. And once you start using it with confidence, something shifts inside you. You start to realize that you were never responsible for how other people reacted. Their disappointment is theirs to deal with. Your job is to protect your peace. There's a reason why people who set strong boundaries are respected, because self-respect commands respect. When you stop allowing people to take advantage of you, you start seeing a different kind of relationship in your life. One built on mutual respect, not obligation. Confidence grows when you stop betraying yourself to keep others happy. You gain mental clarity. You start making choices that align with what you truly want instead of what others expect from you. And suddenly, you understand what real freedom feels like. Look at the people who have created a life of peace and self-respect. They didn't get there by saying yes to everyone. They got there by having the courage to say no. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life. Some people will leave when they realize they can't control you. And that's okay. In fact, it's necessary. The second you say no, you'll see their true colors. And that is the greatest gift you could ever receive, because it shows you exactly who belongs in your life and who doesn't. Starting today, say no to anything that drains you. Say no to manipulation. Say no to guilt. Say yes to yourself. Because the only person who truly needs to approve of your choices is you. Have you ever stopped to think about why you say yes to things that drain you, even when you know it's not right for you? Why do you keep agreeing to things that don't serve you? The truth is, many of us are trapped in a cycle of people-pleasing, saying yes out of fear, guilt, or the need to be liked. But what if saying no could be your key to freedom? What if by breaking free from the constant need to please others, you could reclaim your energy, your time, and your self-respect? This isn't just about setting boundaries, it's about changing the way you see yourself and the world around you. Today you'll learn why we struggle with saying no, how to overcome the fear of rejection, and how to stop confusing kindness with self-sacrifice. It's time to stop feeling drained and unappreciated. It's time to break free and take control of your life. Stick around, because what you're about to discover could change everything. From the time we are children, we are taught that being liked is important. Be polite, be agreeable, be easy to get along with. And so we learn that approval equals acceptance. We learn that making others happy is a sign of being a good person. We carry that belief into adulthood, shaping every decision we make. We say yes when we want to say no. We stay silent when we want to speak up. We shrink ourselves to fit the expectations of others. Because deep down, we're afraid. Afraid of disappointing our parents. Afraid of being judged by society. Afraid that if we stop being who everyone wants us to be, we'll be left behind. But here's the problem. Seeking approval from others will never be enough. No matter how much you do, no matter how much you give, someone will always want more. And when your self-worth is tied to making others happy, you will always feel like you're falling short. If you've spent your life seeking approval, why does it feel like you're still not enough? Because approval is a moving target. The more you chase it, the further away it gets. And the longer you keep seeking it, the more you lose sight of yourself. Saying no feels hard because deep down, we fear what happens next. What if they don't understand? What if they get angry? What if they walk away? That fear runs deep. It's wired into us, built from years of avoiding conflict and trying to keep the peace. So we stay quiet, we agree, we put others first. Because the idea of rejection feels unbearable. The idea of someone being disappointed in us makes our stomach turn. We would rather sacrifice our own needs than risk upsetting someone else. But here's the truth. The fear of rejection keeps you trapped in a life that isn't yours. It keeps you stuck in relationships, commitments, and obligations that drain you. It convinces you that keeping others happy is more important than being true to yourself. But is it really worth it? Is it worth losing yourself just to keep the peace? Because the more you ignore your own needs, the more you start to disappear. And one day you wake up and realize you've been living for everyone except yourself. Being nice is a good thing, but there's a difference between being kind and being a doormat. Society loves to praise those who sacrifice for others, the ones who always say yes, the ones who put themselves last. But if always saying yes truly made you happy, why does it leave you feeling unappreciated and drained? Why does it feel like no one sees how much you're giving? Because kindness without boundaries is just self-sacrifice, and people will take advantage of it as long as you let them. True kindness isn't about abandoning yourself, it's about giving from a place of choice, not obligation. It's about helping others without destroying yourself in the process. And the only way to do that is by knowing when to say no. The more you ignore your own needs, the heavier the burden becomes. At first, it's just a little exhaustion, a little frustration, but over time it turns into something deeper. You start to feel resentful. You start to feel like no one appreciates you, like you're constantly giving and no one is giving back. You feel invisible, like your needs don't matter. And then something even worse happens. You start to lose yourself. You forget what you want. You forget what makes you happy, because for so long your focus has been on everyone else. People pleasing is like pouring from an empty cup. The more you give, the less you have left for yourself. And eventually there's nothing left. No energy, no joy, just exhaustion. But here's the good news. You don't have to live like this. You don't have to keep sacrificing yourself for the sake of others. There is another way. The moment you start saying no, everything changes. At first it feels uncomfortable. People will push back. They'll test your boundaries. But something incredible happens when you stand firm. You start to feel stronger. You start to feel lighter. You realize that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone who values yourself, and that changes everything. Saying no isn't selfish. It's an act of self-preservation. It's the only way to protect your energy, your time, and your well-being. And when you start doing it, the right people will respect you for it. The ones who truly care about you won't leave when you set boundaries. They'll support you. They'll understand. Because real relationships are built on mutual respect, not one-sided sacrifice. Now the question is, how do you start? How do you break free from a lifetime of people-pleasing? First, stop explaining yourself. You don't owe anyone a long reason for why you can't do something. No is enough. Second, practice saying no in small ways. Start with something simple, a request you don't have time for, a favor you don't want to do. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Third, remind yourself that your needs matter, your time matters, your energy matters. You are not here to live for everyone else. The first step to breaking free is realizing that you deserve to put yourself first. You deserve to live a life that feels good to you, not one that is shaped by guilt and obligation. So starting today, choose yourself. Stop saying yes when you mean no. Stop letting the fear of rejection control your life. Stop mistaking self-sacrifice for kindness. Because the moment you do, you'll realize something powerful. You were never supposed to make everyone happy. You were supposed to be free. Have you ever noticed how one simple word, no, can completely change the way people treat you? The moment you stop bending over backward for others, the moment you finally prioritize yourself, everything shifts. Some people will respect you more, while others will reveal their true colors. Saying no isn't just a refusal. It's a declaration of self-respect. It's a boundary that protects your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. But too many of us fear using it. We worry about disappointing others, losing relationships, or being seen as selfish. The truth, the only people who get angry when you say no are the ones who benefited from your inability to say it. Today, you'll learn why no is one of the most powerful words you can use. You'll understand how it filters out toxic relationships, strengthens your confidence, and helps you build a life that aligns with your values. If you're ready to stop draining yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you, let's get started. Pay attention to what happens when you finally start saying no. Some people will accept it with understanding. They'll respect your time, your choices, and your limits. Others, though, they'll push back. They'll make you feel guilty. They'll act like you owe them something, as if your life exists to serve their needs. That reaction says everything. When someone values you only when you say yes, they don't really value you. They value what they can get from you. Real relationships don't crumble when you say no. Fake ones do. The people who truly care about you won't walk away just because you refuse to do something that doesn't serve you. They won't guilt trip you, manipulate you, or make you question yourself. Think about the relationships in your life. Who respects your choices, and who only sticks around when they can benefit? Saying no isn't just about setting boundaries. It's about revealing the truth. When you stop bending, you see who was only holding on because they expected you to break. Every time you say yes to something you don't want, you're saying no to yourself, no to your time, no to your energy, no to your own priorities. If you don't respect your own time, why should anyone else? Honoring your own needs isn't selfish, it's necessary. You wouldn't expect a car to run on an empty tank, so why do you expect yourself to keep going when you're drained, exhausted, and stretched too thin? When you say no, you're choosing yourself. You're choosing to protect your peace, to value your energy, to stop living for everyone else and start living for yourself. And here's the truth: when you start doing that, some people won't like it. Not because you're wrong, but because they're losing control over you. The ones who benefited from your silence, your constant yes, your inability to say no, they'll resist. Pay attention to how people react when you set boundaries. Some will accept them, others will fight them. The ones who fight, they were never really in your corner to begin with. They'll try to guilt trip you, act like you're being difficult, maybe even get passive aggressive. Why? Because they never saw you as a person with needs. They saw you as someone to use. Ask yourself this: if someone only values you when you say yes, do they really value you at all? True respect doesn't disappear when you start valuing yourself. And if someone can't handle you standing up for yourself, they were never really standing with you. Imagine your energy as a bank account. Every yes is a withdrawal. Every favor, every obligation, every moment you give away without thinking, another deduction. What happens when your balance hits zero? You can't keep spending without replenishing. You can't keep giving without refilling. And yet, so many of us treat our energy like it's endless, like we can afford to say yes to everything and everyone without consequences. But there are consequences: exhaustion, resentment, burnout. If you wouldn't give all your money away to people who don't appreciate it, why give all your energy away to people who don't respect it? Start treating your energy like your finances. Invest wisely, don't spend recklessly, and always keep something in reserve for yourself. You don't have to keep running on empty. You don't have to keep saying yes just to keep the peace. You don't have to keep bending until you break. The power to change is in your hands. All it takes is one simple word: no. People get comfortable with the version of you that serves them. The version that says yes without question. The version that never complains, never pushes back, never demands better. When you change that, when you set boundaries, when you finally decide that your peace matters, it shakes people. It disrupts their expectations. And not everyone will like it. Some will act confused, like they don't recognize you anymore. Others will push back, trying to get you to fall in line again. Some will get angry, frustrated that they can't control you the way they used to. But let me tell you something, you are not responsible for their discomfort. You are responsible for your peace. Imagine a house built on shaky ground. The moment you start strengthening the foundation, the whole structure shifts. Cracks appear. Some parts may even fall apart. That's what happens when you start enforcing boundaries. The relationships that were never built on real respect, they start to crumble. The people who only valued what they could take from you, they start to resist. That's not your problem to fix. That's the truth revealing itself. When people say you've changed, what they really mean is you're no longer making life easy for me. They don't see your growth as something positive. They see it as a loss of control. They like the version of you that never said no. They like the version of you that put them first, even at your own expense. But here's the real question. Should you stay stuck just to make others comfortable? Should you keep shrinking yourself just to fit inside their expectations? Growth isn't about pleasing others. It's about becoming who you're meant to be. If someone sees that as a bad thing, that says more about them than it does about you. The truth is, people who care about you will support your growth. They won't see your boundaries as an attack. They won't take your self-respect as a personal insult. They'll respect it, even if it's inconvenient for them. And the ones who don't, they were never really in your corner to begin with. Then comes the guilt, the emotional debt collectors, the ones who remind you of every favor, every kind thing they've ever done for you. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me. They act like you owe them your time, your energy, your choices. But real generosity expects nothing in return. Real kindness isn't a transaction. When someone brings up past favors just to manipulate you, that was never kindness, that was control. Guilt is a weapon, and people will use it to keep you small. They will twist your emotions until you feel like the bad guy for protecting yourself. But listen closely, you do not owe anyone your exhaustion. You do not owe anyone a version of yourself that makes you miserable. If someone's kindness comes with conditions, it was never kindness in the first place. And then there's the silence. The people who suddenly stop calling, stop texting, stop showing up, the ones who disappear when they realize they can't use you anymore. It feels personal, but it isn't. Some relationships exist only because of what you provide, and when that stops, so do they. But that's not a loss, that's a lesson. Let them go. The people who truly belong in your life won't leave just because you set boundaries. They won't abandon you just because you stop bending over backward for them. The right people will stay. And when the wrong ones walk away, all they're doing is making more room for the right ones to come in. People don't like it when you change the rules. When you start standing up for yourself, some will push back. Not because you're wrong, but because they were benefiting from your silence. They were used to you saying yes, to you stretching yourself thin, to you always putting their needs first. Now that you're not, they don't know what to do. Some will argue, some will guilt trip you, some will try to make you feel selfish for finally valuing yourself. But listen carefully, you do not owe anyone an explanation for taking care of yourself. You do not need to over-explain, over-apologize, or justify your choices. A simple no is enough. If they don't respect it, that's their problem, not yours. Think of it this way, if someone gets angry because you're no longer allowing them to take advantage of you, what does that say about them? Real love doesn't come with conditions. Real respect doesn't disappear the moment you stop being convenient. If someone only values you when you're doing something for them, they don't value you at all. Love is not control. It is not guilt. It is not one person constantly sacrificing while the other takes. Love, whether in family, friendships, or relationships, should be built on respect. And respect means allowing people to say no without fear, without backlash, without punishment. Would you rather be respected or simply tolerated? Think about that. Because people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. They won't try to manipulate you into changing them. They won't use guilt or pressure to force you into something you don't want. The ones who do, they were never on your side to begin with. Saying no is not a rejection. It's not about pushing people away. It's about making room for the right ones. The ones who actually care, the ones who support you, not just when it's easy, but when it's necessary. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you say yes to something that builds you. Every time you turn down something that disrespects your boundaries, you make space for something better. It's not about being difficult, it's about protecting your energy, your time, your well-being. And if someone can't handle your no, they never deserved your yes. Let me tell you a story. There was someone who spent their whole life saying yes. Yes to extra work. Yes to last-minute favors. Yes to relationships that took more than they gave. They were exhausted, drained, feeling like they had nothing left. Until one day they finally said no. No to the boss who demanded unpaid overtime. No to the friend who only called when they needed something. No to the family member who used guilt as a weapon. And you know what happened? They got pushback. Some people were angry, some disappeared, but something else happened too. They felt lighter, stronger. They started focusing on what mattered, on the people who respected them, on the things that made them happy. One decision, one boundary, That's all it takes to change everything. The second you decide to put yourself first, your entire life begins to shift. And the right people, they won't leave. They'll support you, because real connections don't crumble when you start valuing yourself. They get stronger. Not everyone will like the new you. Some people will leave when you start standing up for yourself. Let them. The right people will stay. And not only will they stay, but they will respect you more for it. When you stop saying yes to everything, the ones who are only around for their own benefit will disappear. But the ones who truly care, they won't demand that you shrink yourself to make them comfortable. They won't guilt trip you for choosing what's best for you. They will respect your choices because they respect you. Think about it. Would you rather be surrounded by people who only value you when you're easy to use, or by those who support you even when you set limits? The ones who stay, who accept you even when you say no, those are the people worth keeping. Real connections are built on respect, not convenience. Respect starts with you. If you don't honor your time and energy, why would anyone else? If you always put yourself last, why would anyone put you first? People take cues from how you treat yourself. When you let others walk over you, they will. When you give without limits, they will keep taking. Your time is valuable, your energy is limited, and if you don't protect them, no one else will. This isn't selfish, it's necessary. Because when you constantly drain yourself for others, you have nothing left for yourself. And the people who truly care about you, they don't want you exhausted, resentful, or empty. They want you strong. Saying no is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. The key is confidence and clarity. One of the best ways to strengthen your no is to pause before responding. If someone asks you for something, don't rush to say yes just because you feel pressure. Take a moment, ask yourself, is this something I truly want to do? Do I have the time and energy for it? If the answer is no, then say it. And when you do, be firm. You don't have to explain. You don't have to apologize. A simple "I can't" or "that doesn't work for me" is enough. The more you practice this, the easier it gets. And remember this, one strong no is better than 100 weak yeses. Your environment matters. The people you surround yourself with shape your mindset, your confidence, your energy. If you're constantly around people who drain you, who guilt you, who take without giving, it's time to rethink who gets access to you. Look for those who lift you up, who respect your boundaries, who celebrate your growth instead of resenting it. The truth is, if someone doesn't respect your limits, they don't respect you. It's that simple. So take a good look at your circle. Are they helping you grow, or are they holding you back? Because your life is built by the people you allow into it. And the stronger your boundaries, the stronger your life will be. The second you say no, you'll see their true colors. Some will get angry, some will try to guilt you, some will act like you've done something wrong. But let me tell you something. This is not a loss. This is a revelation. When you stop bending over backward, the people who only cared about what you could do for them will show their true selves. And that's a gift. Because now you know. Now you can stop wasting your time on those who never truly respected you in the first place. If someone only values you when you're making their life easier, was that ever real respect? Real relationships don't fall apart when you set boundaries. Real friends, real family, real partners, those who truly care won't leave just because you start respecting yourself. They won't punish you for putting yourself first. They won't make you feel guilty for saying no. The people who matter will stay, and they will respect you more, not less. Think about it. Would you rather spend your life surrounded by people who stick around out of obligation, or by those who stay because they genuinely value you? Respect is not built on how much you give up for others. It's built on mutual understanding, mutual support, and mutual care. Every no you say to something that drains you is a yes to yourself. Every time you set a limit, you are choosing your own well-being. This isn't about shutting people out. It's about refusing to live in a way that exhausts you. You don't need to explain. You don't need to apologize. You don't need to justify why you deserve peace. It's time to stop making yourself small, just to make others comfortable. It's time to start living on your terms. Starting today, say no to anything that drains you. Say no to people who take more than they give. Say no to guilt. Say no to manipulation. And most importantly, say no to the version of yourself that was too afraid to set limits. This is your turning point. You don't need permission to take back your power. You don't need approval to protect your peace. Your worth has never been measured by how much you give away. It's time to claim it.